Joining us now is the one and only former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton. Mr. Ambassador, hello, sir.
Hi, how are you? Thanks again for having me.
Well, thank you for giving us your time. Really appreciate it. You made big news here last time saying that you felt that under the right circumstances, this whole thing could bring the administration down. Got picked up everywhere. What's your take on the latest revelations made this morning by ABC News and now by everyone else?
Well, I think the Jonathan Karl story is extremely important. It builds on the work of Steve Hayes at the Weekly Standard. In fact, Steve has another article himself out today, and I really do think it should be open season here because the testimony on Wednesday by Mr. Hicks and the others had to make it clear that there was simply no factual basis from the get-go to any argument that this was a demonstration in Benghazi that got out of control, a demonstration over the Mohammed video. This was a terrorist attack from the outset. Everybody understood it to be so, and there was never any doubt. So as the talking points got altered, I think we're going to now begin to find out where the responsibility lies. Is it at the doorstep of Secretary of State Clinton, or does it go to the White House and all the way to the Oval Office? We don't know the answers to those questions yet, so of course the pro-Obama, pro-Clinton spin is that there's no smoking gun from the hearing. That may be, but there was a lot of smoke in the room.
A lot of smoke in the room, and of course, you've been in a position to represent the administration's position on various things as the UN ambassador during your tenure. You knew from the get-go something wasn't right here, but now, again, it was the State Department, as we learned on Wednesday, that told Greg Hicks, don't talk to Congressman Chaffetz when he comes. Don't say anything to him. Don't let anybody talk to him. And then when one of their moles weren't allowed in the room on a private meeting because they didn't have high enough security clearance, they got Stephanie Mills called and said, what happened in that meeting? What happened? Tell us everything. And now it's the State Department again that wanted these talking points scrubbed to discount anything that could have indicted Hillary Clinton and the State Department. So although I'm sure the White House had to know about this, although I'm not sure, but I would assume, it looks like the State Department, and of course who ran the State Department, Hillary Clinton, can she continue to claim total ignorance on all this? Because after all, sir, she did say at the hearing she takes full responsibility.
Well, she takes full responsibility for in the abstract, but not on anything that actually happened. And I think that's a position increasingly difficult to sustain as of not just September the 11th itself, but what happened before it and what happened after it. The question we haven't really had a chance to get into is why did we open a consulate in Benghazi that didn't come anywhere close to meeting the State Department's standards for security, especially in a dangerous environment like that? And I think it was about advancing the theory that the overthrow of Gaddafi was a huge success. The Arab Spring was eliminating terrorism. Everything was going well in Libya. Really, what could go wrong? That put these people in a vulnerable position to begin with. And that is a matter of policy. That's a matter of policy that comes from the top of the State Department. You mentioned Cheryl Mills, who is the person who called up Greg Hicks to yell at him for having the audacity to meet with a member of Congress. She is Hillary Clinton's chief of staff,
right.
Was her chief of staff at the State Department. And I've spoken both to former political appointees under Hillary Clinton and career people who say that Cheryl Mills is her consigliere, has been her enforcer, which means she doesn't say anything that Clinton doesn't authorize. So I think we're right at the door to Hillary Clinton's office, and the only question is who's going to open it.
Well, a very, very good question. We're talking to Ambassador John Bolton here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Senator Lindsey Graham said that, it was Congressman Chaffetz who said that he said Hillary must testify again. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, but I would not do it soon. The questions that were answered on the hearing on Wednesday were very important questions, go right to the root of what happened on 9/11. But the panoply of events that led up to 9/11 and why we didn't have assets in place to help the people out. Look, we'd had the Arab Spring underway for a year and a half. We'd had riots, demonstrations, civil wars all over North Africa and the Middle East. Didn't anybody in the Obama administration think that Americans might be in jeopardy at one point or another in cities in the region? Did we do nothing to enhance our capability to extract them from countries in difficult circumstances or provide protection like we could have used at Benghazi? That's a huge issue right there. And then, of course, where the Mohammed video story came from, I think is important because it goes directly to the question, did the administration concoct a political cover-up, given there was only 2 months until our presidential election? It was a cover-up that may have started with Susan Rice and her 5 Sunday talk shows, but it included Secretary Clinton, it included President Obama. If it wasn't a cover-up, it had to be ideological blindness. Those are the only 2 explanations.
And so you would suggest waiting until more comes out and then to have more to ask Hillary about?
Right. You know, a number of people have asked, well, was there a smoking gun on Wednesday? And, of course, the Democrats and their media friends are saying, well, there was no smoking gun. I guess we can go home now. That's not the way investigations work. This is more like, to use a football analogy, 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Right.
You need to do the spade work. You need to do the basic investigation. You need to look at thousands of emails and other documents. You need to talk to a lot of witnesses. And that's the way, really, the staff, I think, of Congressman Ice's committee had performed. They prepared the groundwork for the members. They knew they had interviewed the witnesses. They knew what their testimony was going to be, so it could be presented in a coherent fashion. And they need to do that probably with dozens of other witnesses before Hillary Clinton appears again.
And you know, the Senator Lindsey Graham, who I started alluding to earlier, was demanding that U.S. Army General Martin Dempsey, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, return because he sees a point of contention involving whether any military officers issued an order to armed forces personnel on the night of 9/11 to stand down or not. So he wants him recalled as well.
Right, and I think that would be appropriate, again, after preparation. You know, Hicks testified that his defense attaché, a lieutenant colonel, told him via the military chain of command that the people in Tripoli who could have gone to assist in Benghazi were told to stand down. All right, well, somebody gave that lieutenant colonel the order. Let's find out that person's name. Let's interview that person. Let's see who told him to call the defense attaché in Tripoli. I mean, you can see how this should go.
Absolutely. One more quickly. I spoke with Victoria Townsend earlier, an interview we're going to run in a little while here on the show. She said, and then she hasn't said this anywhere else as far as I know, that Greg Hicks, now the State Department saying, oh, he wasn't demoted. He asked for this office job. He's making the same amount of money. She said they're bald-faced liars and that he was told, you take this office job or take a hike.
Yeah, look, people in the State Department and the Foreign Service have what's called rank in person. They do make the same amount of money, whatever chair they're sitting in. But it's clear that Hicks was moved aside. He testified that Elizabeth Jones, the acting Assistant Secretary for the Near East Bureau, basically told him that. And Beth Jones is another person that ought to be up there on the Hill being interviewed at length under oath about what she knows.
All right, Mr. Ambassador, thank you for your time, sir. Always appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thanks again for having me.
My pleasure. It's Ambassador John Bolton, ladies and gentlemen.